Hello, everyone. Melissa and Melissa coming to you again. And we're going to talk today about the stressors around the holidays, especially for those of us who have very specific food needs,
Yeah.
and really talking into, how do we create really healthy boundaries for ourselves, but also for those that we're going to be hanging out with, because this is a big family time, right? When a lot of families meet and have a huge meal and spend time together. And especially if you're relatively new at having specific food boundaries or food needs, this can be a stressful time because it's hard to ask for what you need or to create a setting in which you're able to enjoy this family get together and food and everything without getting in trouble with your body, but also feeling like everything is flowing well with your family. Kind of a big topic.
It is. I love that we're bringing this up because I think one of the things I've learned through my journey with my allergies is to advocate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really important, you guys, because you have to be more concerned with upsetting your body than upsetting, a family member. And quite frankly, that may mean that you're packing up your own little to-go cup, right? On the
Mm-hmm.
top of my head.
Yep.
Because, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
I know when I first discovered my whole gluten situation, people really didn't understand that. And,
Mm-hmm.
I would get really anxious going to friends' houses. So I would often just host them at my house, which is if you have that option, sometimes that's best because I can control my kitchen, right? And then I just have real clarity around what I don't want people to bring. And most people are respectful of that. But I'll be honest, I've had a lot of incidents in my family where they don't understand it, they don't respect it. And I've left events because it's not worth being sick for 3 to 4 days or more just because you don't want to have an argument with someone. And I think, one of the things I was saying to Melissa before we hopped on was, I was talking to one of my clinical clients last week, and we were talking about setting boundaries with his parents, as an adult. And it's something that so many people are struggling with, which is so sad to me
Mm.
because it's a sensitive topic, right? And or siblings or whatever, right? I also think too, our generations are more understanding of some of this food stuff, particularly if you're really trying to feel good. Like I know most people in my family feel like crap and don't care that they feel like crap, right?
Mm.
So, or they want to just use traditional medicine or whatever. Um, so the way I take care of myself is very foreign to them.
Right.
And rather than feeling like you need to explain yourself, because by the way, this isn't like, you're not inviting them to a TED talk.
Right.
It's like, what do I need to do? So I've absolutely shown up places with my own food in my little container that I can heat up. Um, or like I said, offered to host or, bring things. So at least I know
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple things I can eat. But I think the biggest piece that this conversation is going to evolve around is advocating for yourself,
Exactly. Yeah.
because you need to, and particularly in regards to all of it. But, I don't know if there's more on the food piece, Melissa, that you want to kind of sprinkle in, because I know I'm sure it's something you've encountered also.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up the gluten piece because that used to be, it's not as big of a deal now, but it used to be that when I had gluten, even a little bit, it would trigger numbness on my left side. Like it would affect my ability to walk in the early years of recovery for me. And I haven't met anyone that gluten was that severe, like it affected your ability to be mobile. But for me, it did. So it kind of became a question of, do I want to walk out of this gathering, or do I want to have somebody help me?
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
for most people, it's not that big. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I mean, I understand that, Melissa, because it doesn't like my joints swell,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I get that. And you're right.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you have to go, yeah, do I want to get carried out of here? uh,
Yeah, seriously. So for a lot of people, it's not that big of a thing. It's not that deep. However, when you're working on really helping the body recover, to have been been really good with your food, and first of all, understanding which foods don't work well for you. And then number two, being really clear about, I'm staying away from these foods and this is why. A lot of times the and this is why is what the other people in your family or gathering or whatever you're going to attend need to know. They need to understand that this isn't just some, you know, food fad thing you're getting into. This is really about your recovery journey.
yeah.
And most of the time they'll be on board with that. But just asking for that and sharing that kind of information is literally admitting that you are not where you want to be in your wellness journey. Sometimes it's telling somebody that, okay, I'm sick right now, when they may not have known that. Sometimes it's sharing personal
Mhm.
stuff, and it's deep and it's very vulnerable. And so when we go into that space, sometimes it's easy to kind of go, and not want to share that and go, I'll just take the consequences, whatever happens, or just not eat and walk away hungry. Um, so there's a lot of pieces here that we could talk about, but I think the biggest one is what you already touched on, Melissa, is advocating for yourself, deciding what you need,
Yeah.
and then asking for that of the other people who are involved, or bringing your own food and making sure that they know you're going to be, that it's not an insult to them, that their food's terrible, so I'm not going to eat it.
Right. Right.
No, it's a way to really nourish yourself and care for yourself.
It's so funny you say this because, this is something that over the years, like, has certainly evolved. And I've noticed it even in like our friendships with like our really good friends. They're so respectful because they know how bad it can be,
Mm-hmm.
which is the sign of true friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that love you, like, we'll either meet at a restaurant that we know is going to accommodate and make sure I don't
Mm-hmm.
get sick,
Yep.
or they'll come here because they're just not willing to risk it. It's funny, like, we have dear friends that, like, gosh, we just love so much. And we're like, we can come to the house because they've got two little ones and their life is hectic. And they were hesitant. And so, one day I was like, if that's not going to work, like, I'm happy. She's like, no, honestly, I just don't want to poison you. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, right. Like, because I forget, and that's awesome, when people
Mm-hmm.
care enough that they can at least understand. But, that's really the key. And if someone's not being
Mm-hmm.
respectful to that, maybe you need to reconsider your scenario with that person. I know that's tough with family, right? But I definitely think we need to lean into that more as people, because I know that's something that, with Liv, I'm trying to teach her,
Mm-hmm.
to advocate for herself at such a younger
Mm-hmm.
age, because I can't tell you how many times, you guys, when I first, well, I'll tell this story. So I was pretty new to knowing a lot of my allergies. And
Mm-hmm.
I was at an Italian restaurant. I want to say I was probably like 22, 23. This was a really long time ago. And I was with one of my good friends, Erin, and I remember we went into this place that's no longer standing, and you won't be surprised when you hear what happened. So I had made two modifications to a dish, let them know it's allergies, and the chef actually came out of the kitchen and yelled at me.
Mm.
And I was so upset, as you can imagine, and we left obviously, and but I just remember it was like it felt so horrifying and it was so embarrassing, right? Like,
Mm,
um, and no one wants to go through that, right? And so
right.
if you get that response, certainly within sort of any sort of like family gathering, you have every right to put your foot down and exit, right? But I think like Melissa's saying is, ahead of time, letting people know like, hey, this is what's going on. Um, if they don't understand it, it's funny, like my dad understands allergies because he's had a lot of allergies, which, potentially might be where a lot of mine stem from, but the food allergy thing is kind of a newer concept for him.
Hmm.
But he's doing a really great job trying to understand and just genuinely wants to make sure that I'm good, and that's where you really want people to be. They may not get it, but if they're like, whatever you need to do, right? So like when I go visit him, I just pack us lunches because I meal prep. So I just bring food down for both of us. And, that works. But it's definitely, you know, it's, I know there's been times that, I'll be like, I'm just going to try it or I'll trust this place. But my gut always tells me like, this is a
Hmm.
bad idea. Um, I mean, even like, next week, and I'm having my best friend and I do a little holiday dinner every year, and we go to this very, nicer place. And we had an incident last year where the waiter had no clue about, he didn't even bring out the gluten-free menu for me, whatever. So the manager ended up coming to work with us because I ended up in just tears. But
Hmm.
the difference was I refused to leave, like, because, the manager came and was like, I can't accommodate you if you choose to stay. Um, which, sometimes we have to work through those moments, right? Because I think for a lot of us, if you get really sick, then you've had that experience and you just don't want to, it's frustrating when people don't understand or don't try to care, right? So, um, but I made sure in my email to note, like, listen, this is the manager we dealt with. He knows my situation. We would like to work with him again, whatever. So I think it's just also, if you're going out places, you'll start to learn the places that you can trust, right? But
Exactly.
calling and asking first, because I know
Yes.
if I'm in a new place, I will call and just ask. And if they say they can't, like, you just, okay, I got what do you recommend? That actually happened when I was on a resort recently when had earned that trip with Arbonne. And I remember I asked, we were out by the pool and I wanted like a salad or something. And the the waiter was super nice and he said, honestly, I think you need to go inside because they can make sure nothing is going to make you sick.
Mm.
And I appreciated him being honest versus trying. I think he was able to bring me like a fruit cup or something, but he was like, if you want real food, you got to go in.
Right.
But I appreciated the honesty. No, but I think that's the thing, you guys, is standing up for yourselves. And then I know we were talking a little bit too about even just what are some of the things that you don't need to do during the holidays? Like, do you feel like you need to give every person like some little something? Don't. Like, if that doesn't bring you joy, then don't
Mm.
do it, right? If it does, then okay, cool. But like, I know for me, like, gift giving is not my love language. I prefer quality time, hence, like, having dinner with my bestie, doing those are things I'd much rather do, rather than more stuff, right? And people that know me have come to understand that because I think at first they were like, they'd give me a gift and I would, of course say thank you, but wouldn't have one for them. And, over the years, I've
Mm.
had to explain like gift giving is not my love language. I would rather do something with you that for me is way more fun. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, that is a way better idea because it's like you're having an experience together, but
Hmm.
I think it's all about boundaries, right, Melissa?
And being okay with saying what you need and saying it with respect
Yes.
and saying it with love. It's not like you want to upset the proverbial apple cart, but really being okay with saying, look, this is what I need. And this is what I will be doing to help, with the situation. So thinking back to the food piece, this is what I would love. So for example, don't put the gravy on the stuffing. And if there's gluten-free stuffing, awesome, or whatever your food things are. Or, maybe it's as simple as keeping things separated, so that you can have options in the meal. But really being okay with clearing it with the host, if you're not the host or hostess, to be able to say, I'll be bringing my own XYZ because I want to be sure that I can enjoy this meal with you and not have to be, like not go. So having really fun ideas and allowing the people who are hosting or doing most of the cooking, if that's not you, to try new recipes and to try something. Sometimes that is the most fun thing is, and that just happened with a family situation that I was a part of recently is, a family member was like, okay, I can do gluten-free, egg-free, whatever, all the frees, pumpkin pie. And she was so excited to bring that pie for everybody
Yeah.
to taste. And it was amazing. But it was just like she took it on as a new thing. And it was almost like it was her gift or
Mhm.
really big contribution to the gathering. And it wasn't for herself, it was for someone that she loved that would be a part of that. And so it was really fun to watch that because it's like, we are always thinking about how we don't want somebody to go out of their way. Sometimes it's a gift for them to be able to try something new and contribute in a way that's very, very special.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I think it's been cool. Like I've definitely had friends do that and they're really excited and they
Mm-hmm.
like, I found this, or they'll send over like the recipe, like, will this
Yeah,
work? And
yeah.
um I used
It's
to be like, don't
special
worry about me, whatever. But then I was like, you know what, that's really cool and super thoughtful. Um
and it gives them
and yeah,
joy.
yeah. And then they learn in the process. So I will share this story. Over the summer, we had stayed with friends in New Hampshire who I love. And they were so accommodating. We cooked at home every night. So it was nice. So we could control the food, but she was really wanting to learn. So one night I wanted to gift them with like not kind of a standard protein, roasted vegetable, whatever. I wanted to make them. I do some pretty bomb turkey piccata because I have a chicken allergy, so I did
Mm.
turkey breast instead. But they were like blown away, and I was so excited to cook for them because I really
Yep.
love to cook for people, and to just be in like a really nice experience, And
Yeah.
so, um, but it was cool because they learned in the process because
Mm-hmm.
she like I have like one brand of dairy free, butter that I found that's not full of a bunch of weird crap. And
Yep.
and so she was all excited to learn about that. And of course
Mm-hmm.
it dispelled the myth that anything tastes weird or whatever. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I just think you can have those cool moments. And I know we started on the food thing, but I actually, before we got on, had one of my best friends text me. She had been planning, like a getaway with a couple other friends. And she just said, I told them I can't go. Like my mental
Mm-hmm.
health just can't handle it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm proud of you, and sometimes you guys right now, if there's seems to be a lot happening, we have to draw the
Mm-hmm.
line around what we can and cannot do. And
Yep.
it's okay.
Yep.
Like, if you need to, you know, miss something or not be a
Mm-hmm.
part of an event because that's just not going to work. I mean, on Friday I was supposed to have an event at my home, and a few people had canceled, and I just said, you know what, like I'm not in the mental space to do this.
Yeah.
And I had to reschedule it. And nobody was angry about that,
Mm-hmm.
and actually a lot
Yeah.
of people were like, oh, actually the new date works so much better. And so sometimes you have to do that stuff, you guys, because it's what you need. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that can feel like such a weird foreign space to be, right?
Yeah.
But it's super important. And yeah, if you're navigating family stuff, I know I am for sure. You just got to figure out like what does that look like right now? And what is, and it could change, but if it doesn't, it's really just about like, what do I need? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. And think about what brings you joy, right? Like, I know we talk about that a lot, Melissa, just kind of across the board, but you know, like, I know for me, like decorating my house brings me a lot of joy. So I'm that person who does it really early. But I do it because it just makes me really happy to do it. So, and if it doesn't bring you joy, then maybe there's someone in your family that it does, and you can kind of have them lead the charge, right? But like, getting clarity around that, I think, is so important
Mm.
so you can enjoy this time of year for what it's meant to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So it kind of feels like we've distilled down to being able to give yourself permission to create boundaries around what you need. And then being able to be comfortable with saying, this is what I will be doing. And then leaning into the kind of the traditional things and asking the question, does this give me joy? Is this something I want to be a part of this year? And if so, to what degree? And giving yourself permission to change what that looks like to be able to really match what you need. So I've loved this conversation. Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to kind of speak to before we close?
Just remember your kind of core principles too. Make sure you're
Mm-hmm.
hydrating, you're taking your supplements, you're, you know, eating
Mm-hmm.
your clean foods, that way if you have a treat here and there, it doesn't derail your whole train.
Yep.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, moving your body, still
Mm-hmm.
breathing, praying, meditating, whatever it is that you do, but
Mm-hmm.
keeping those things going, because I
Yeah.
think as the schedule can get more full, it can feel like those things slide off, right?
Yeah. I love that. Well, awesome. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing holiday season. We're moving into the more busy time, I know, but sometimes before we get to the busy, if we can think through some of this stuff and create boundaries and kind of lay out what we want to do, it can take some of the angst and the stress out of walking into this busy season. So you already know what you want, you already know what you need, and you have everything in place.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, enjoy your day. Thanks for joining us.